working on some Apocalypse Girl stuff. Yay. And thought I would share some streaming of some of this going on. So, working on a page from a chapter that I'm really glad to be bringing to a close because it has some potentially disturbing things in it, but it's really cool. So, it's actually not Apocalypse Girl. It's not the girl you see right there. It's a different character who just went through some real crap. And anyone who's watched my artwork will know, like, I have this weird thing. I kind of fixate on trees. I don't know why. Maybe it's from growing up, out in the country where we had a lot of trees. I always find doing trees to be a thing that I end up kind of fixating on. I think it's kind of a weird thing, but of all the odd little things to get caught up on. I just have this thing for trying to render, with line art, these, bark and texture and all this kind of stuff. I've also changed my Manga Studio layout a little bit, so it's a little more, a little less Photoshop-like and has kind of its own thing going on. Also, I started paying a lot more attention to my page size on screen, because I noticed, my Cintiq is it's a small one. It's not one of the big dogs. Hopefully I'll get one of those before too long, but right now I use a smaller Cintiq, and I found I did some inking recently on boards for my friend Peter that it kind of pushed me back into some traditional tools for a minute, and I realized that I wasn't always totally up on I was there was a little bit of a disconnect because of being able to zoom, of all things. Yeah. No. Yeah, I don't. Your sister has some, but I'm actually online on a live stream right now. Yeah, whenever you see these headphones on, that's... No. Alright. So, I am in the process of doing a little bit of streaming here while working on inks and some Apocalypse Girl stuff. So every once in a while I may hop over to another machine to do something, but I should be right back. Pardon me. I'm just going to hop over so that I can grab the live stream link and pop it out in a few places real quick. Because what's the point of doing it if you're not going to share it? It's really funny how, like, different machines, different browsers and all that stuff will show me different things that I have going on. And like YouTube looks different on different machines, and it's highly annoying. There we go. Have to find where I can get the URL for this. Cool. Alright. So now I can save this. There we go. Might as well toss it out on Twitter too. Alrighty. That's bitter. So yeah, if anybody shows up, I'm here. At some point I may throw some music on in the background just because. I don't know though. It's kind of weird because, you know, YouTube is real strict about what music you can play, and if it's something that's not flagged to be used in YouTube videos, then they'll actually can my video after it goes up. Which, I get it, I understand. It's just kind of sucks, you know, because I had this really long video up the other day, and I hadn't even thought about it. I just had some music playing in the background, and it was like, oh yeah, you can't do that. I'm like, well, crap. So anyway, I'm working on this page, and it's following a sequence where this poor soul, this poor young lady, has actually gotten the ever-living crap beat out of her by a guy, and she's gotten away from him and is making her way back to Mama. And it's fun, but it's also really brutal. It's like almost disturbingly brutal at times. But it's, you know, it's like the world of Apocalypse Girl is it's not a nice place, you know, to say the least. And you know, one of the things I wanted to capture in it is this little bit of a struggle that happens sometimes between some of the women in this world and, you know, some of the less than decent men that can be found populating it. And it's not like some big, you know, social diatribe or something. I actually despise that crap. It's more like, I think in a world where things have gone royally south, I don't know, it's like in a post-apocalyptic world, I mean, part of the nature of that kind of world is people reverting to their worst possible selves. And you know, I think for, you know, maybe for some men that would be a thing, and there's definitely a way that that plays out into something really ugly. So, and it's a very kind of serious, hard-boiled component of the world of Apocalypse Girl. Is I mean, that's why the first story takes place in great part in or around this place called Mama's Place, and it's really, see, the messed up part of it is Mama's Place is, for all intents and purposes, it's a brothel, but there's more to it than just being a brothel. You know, it's not just, it's like, I don't know, there's a dynamic there that I really wanted to play into, where depending on your attitude about one thing or another, Mama may actually be a villain. Like, she may not be all that cool, but then again, when you look at her from other angles, she's actually incredibly cool. So it's like, you know, what's what with that? And of course, I dig that sort of thing. I dig characters like that, characterization like that. You know, I like that kind of complexity that doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's like there's right and wrong in the context of the world. But then again, the characters themselves, like I personally know what I believe is right and wrong, but the characters themselves have, their own varying takes on such novel concepts. And so I try to depict that and turn it into something interesting so that you get to sort of see these different approaches and ideas to a lot of things play out. And that's one of the interesting things to me about trying to write, these characters. It's like, I think it's always fun to try and write characters. It's nice sometimes to try and write characters who you definitely, beyond all question, disagree with. Sometimes those are the most fun. And in just a artistic way, I think you'll learn a lot about yourself in trying to write those sorts of characters, because you have to find out how far you can go in putting yourself in their shoes before you do start to agree with one thing or another. And that's something that I think is lacking in a lot of art and writing and media today. Is there's actually a lot of grandstanding, and there's a lot of stuff that's people saying one thing or another and pushing one thing or another with absolutely no interest in legitimately looking at what the other, side may have to say. And that's not healthy. And I see a lot of that, where there's just, it's like the world's becoming this giant echo chamber, which is, in a funny way, is part of what informs the entire story of Apocalypse Girl. Is that it's the world after the echo chamber has kind of exploded on itself a little bit. So, without giving too much away, that's these are actually important parts of what it's about. And so, in order to write something like that, I have to be able to put myself in those different positions. Look at those different scenarios and characters and motivations and sort of try to understand them and really work with them to turn them into something believable. Of course, at the end of the day, it is still, it's still an action, adventure, post-apocalyptic comic with, elements of horror and sci-fi and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, there's I also have to be careful not to take it too damn seriously, because it is what it is, and it should be fun. Well, there's no reason that you can't have fun and also create something that evokes things, I mean, that's part of the fun for me, is that it actually does that, or at least tries to. So, this is where my process goes when I'm doing the artwork for something like this. I can do traditional inks, and I recently did some for Peter, and you folks may know Peter Palmiotti. He's a buddy of mine, cool dude, loosely involved in some things with Apocalypse Girl. We may have some announcements coming up. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, helping Peter out with some stuff. I ended up doing some traditional inking again recently, and that was kind of cool. But for my own stuff, I actually like being here in Manga Studio quite a bit. It's my favorite place to be doing my stuff. So, zoom out and see how that's coming. That's looking pretty solid, I think. So I always try to come back in anymore to around 20% because my Cintiq is a smaller one, and at 20% I'm actually working at about the same size that I would on a traditional board. And so then I'm able to gauge my line weights better for what it's going to be like when it goes to print. So let's come back through here. And since I'm the penciler on this, I pencil super loose, you know, since I'm inking myself. So like if you look at my loose pencils, they're really kind of a visual shorthand. Just kind of tell me certain things that I'm going to do with the ink when I get there. I always love that positive negative effect of doing white into black for foliage and, you know, different kinds of grasses and stuff like that. So she's out in the middle of nowhere basically. I love how using those white lines over the black, you immediately get that sense of depth and complexity. I also have a tendency to try to always pull my strokes. I don't push the pen away very often. So I'll either pull my strokes or I'll stroke from right to left, because that's just kind of naturally the smoothest way for me to move. I notice if I'm pushing away, I don't have as smooth a stroke. So now I want to check my brush size. I know I want to go down to something smaller, so there we go. So now let's I go through here. Actually, I want to go to a larger brush, like quite a bit larger, because I'm doing kind of dusky, maybe even nighttime trees. And so I also am going to throw a white hold around this guy. So now let's do that. And then I come back through here. Like that. And I have key commands set up for different brushes that I use, different brush and pen settings, which is very handy. So I have different brushes and things set up in here that emulate different things I like to use in a traditional environment. So that by doing that, it lets me work without really having to pay attention to the software so much. I can just work with it very much like I would a traditional artboard. And I'm a huge Frank Miller fan, and because of that, I think that's really where my white into black habits come from. There's something about rendering white into black that I've always loved for a lot of things. Especially in a dark, sort of gritty, ominous sort of world. there's something that white into black, just makes things, you got a world that's dark and lit by rim lights and, stark surfaces, and that's just kind of cool. So I want to add some variation to that tree right there. Just kind of start breaking up the scene a little bit. Even though it's not really hard penciled in, I'm going to kind of scrub in a branch coming off right here and switch back out to some white. So we'll throw a little rim light up under that, build some contours. So, big fan of Bernie Wrightson, who I think, he had a way of doing some stuff like this that I like. Bernie Wrightson, Steve Bissett, a lot of these guys, just really cool rendering of white into black. And then sometimes I'll actually take the white and just blow out my edge so that it feels like light is just cascading across the back side of it. I think that's so cool. So I heard my phone buzzing, so I'm going to check and see if there's any... Oh, hey, look. I see Peter popped into the chat on here. Very cool. So, yeah. I'm just kind of doing some white into black rendering and letting it fly. Let's continue that little trick there of making it blow out. Just peel that on down this way. Alright. There we go. Let's correct that a little bit. So let's come in and do some more of these. Do some more happy little trees, huh? Get all Bob Ross on it for a minute. So a lot of times I'll just make a shape, and then if you see, like, you can see that I'm still drawing. I don't know if you can see the pointer, but see that I'm drawing out past my panel. It's masked off, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a solid shape there so that I can just drop a black fill in, and so now I'm going to come in and start building those tree contours with that rim light, and then just gradually let that ease its way back out. Now I've got some perspective going on here too, so I want to reinforce that with some of this stuff. There's that. And let's add some of those little horizontal lines there, and the curvature of them helps really define that sense of perspective. So I dig that sort of thing. So there's that. And then let's check my brush size. I think I want to go down something smaller. And I want to just start adding in some of the little stuff in the background now. Now I've kind of developed a style for this sequence that I'm digging, where I'll throw in these sort of shadows and then come back in with things. Oop, that's not what I wanted. So then come back in like that a little bit, and then maybe throw some small stuff in there. So it's kind of a fun way to do that, where you're sort of just implying some distance through shading like that. I like for things to feel really, filled out. And sometimes I'll come back in. You see, like right there, how I'm doing this little bit coming back over. Oh, I better reply to Pete. So I really dig, the way you can start to build this depth out. Just tossing these shapes in here. So then I'll start to mix that up a little bit like that. There we go from there. So then just alternate. And this is actually one of the reasons I like working digital, is because like if I'm working traditional, I have to do black and then I have to stop, clean my brush or pen or whatever, or at least set it aside, and then go to my white. Whereas working digital and with this kind of style that I have with this sort of stuff, I can just like sit here and do these strokes and then switch off. So there's a white stroke, there's a black stroke. I could do, there's a black stroke like that, and do a white one. And there you get, all that depth built in off of it, and I don't have to slow down to change things out. I dig that a lot. So let's come in and do a little bit more of this stuff in here. And this stuff is just a really good way to imply things in the distance without actually having to render a whole lot of it. I have this thing where the Apocalypse Girl, the world is as much a character as the characters sometimes. And there's things about the world, things you can run into in that world that just are. They're just part of things, and they're awful. And I feel like the world has to be kind of represented. So let's zoom out and look at this kind of pretty close to print size. And then if I turn off my pencils underneath, you can see what those inks are looking like. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think I can call that done, that section of that panel. There we go. So I want to move on into doing this girl now. And I have a habit in Manga Studio of switching back over to the story mode, where I can look and look back at costumes and things in previous pages. That way I can maintain my continuity Not just like knowing this is what the character looks like, but knowing like if something was torn in a previous page, I like to be able to still see that. If there's changes, just whatever, because all that stuff plays into things. I think you have to pay attention to it, and visual continuity is kind of a big deal to me. So I like to just pop back out and kind of take a glance around and double check things sometimes. So it's okay. We're gonna come in here and just, and I like I said, I pencil pretty loosely when I'm inking myself. Like if someone else were inking me, I probably wouldn't pencil near as loose. But when it's myself, I just, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Because I kind of know the things I want to render. So I have a tendency to just let that stuff go loose and then kind of work it out on the fly with ink, which is another benefit of going digital with stuff. It's like you've got some real leeway with that, and I don't mind because it's the book itself is the end product. This is definitely the part of things where I kind of tend to zone out, so if I drift off a bit, just kind of bear with me if you're watching and digging it. And I have a tendency too to like actually use brushes that are way bigger than the size of the lines I'm going to draw, because I have my sensitivity set in such a way that like it may say that it's a 40 mil brush, so I could push real hard and get all that thickness, but I actually will barely touch it to the screen so that it feels a lot more like a quill or a natural brush that I normally use, so I don't have to put near as much pressure on. And besides saving my screen from all manner of abuse, it also gives me a much more natural flow and line that I think is just much closer to what I would get with one of my brushes. And then also, if I push really hard, I can get those little dagger strokes that are, I think, kind of important to be able to get. Alright. I keep rotating. And here I'm going to go heavier to lighter in the back. So I'm really going to be filling up a lot of the space in her hair here, because I really want a lot of darkness in the front, like she's backlit. So I'm even go through and connect some of that stuff together even. Right. might leave some of those stray little spots not filled in. I could have just flooded the whole area with black, but I wanted to leave some hints of that hair showing through. Right here, I think I'm actually going to dial some of this back even with some white, so that it's a little more tapered. And then I like throwing some little highlights and things in there. So we should get this nice light to dark moving from the back. I think I have a weird thing about doing hair because I used to have really long hair. Like for most of my life I did. Well, not most of my life anymore. God, I'm getting old. But yeah, I used to have really long hair, and just it was a thing, you know. It was a thing. Always trying to convey the way things feel. It's kind of an odd thing I keep in mind, but I want my worlds to be sort of tactile. I like doing that. Like if I want that hair, I want to build that up in front. I'll ink it in black and then come back through and just tap a little highlight here and there, and you get this immediate sense of depth. Let's check that out without the blue behind it. Yeah, I dig that. See how you get that sense of light from the back. I like that. Oh, nice. Saying hi to Eric Faries, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, dude, who popped into the chat on the stream here. So let's zoom back into size and move forward a little bit. So where I pencil the stuff so loose, sometimes like I'm looking, I know that I have her hand going underneath here, so sometimes I'll pop back down to the pencil layer and erase a little bit out if I'm having trouble kind of telling what it was I did, because you know sometimes that happens. So I might erase a little bit of it out and re-pencil it a little bit on the fly, just to kind of make sure that I've got my own house in order before I go inking it. I mean, even though it's digital and I could, you know, I could just wing it, I really don't like just winging it. I'd rather have my stuff kind of defined, you know. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't mind just winging it because I pencil loose for myself, but then there are times when it's good to have it tightened up a little bit. So And that's really kind of a big thing too, with all the shadows and stuff that I want. Probably the most important thing to me to have defined is where those shadows are going to fall and just how I'm going to cope with all that. It's like right here, I know I want to have this pretty deep. There we go. And then her leg should be right here. And I probably will end up wanting to rim light that other leg, but then keep deep shadows all through here. I think that's a good idea right there. Alright. So now I can pop back up to my, go away, go away. Pop back up to my ink layer for this. And start working on this. So, I know that a lot of this is going to end up getting some real pools of black to it too. I think that should read pretty strong. Yeah. So zoom out every once in a while. Take a look. So here I can just kind of hatch some of that stuff. I'm going to give some of the cloth tatter hanging through there. So, and then I'm also going to build up some of this shadow, I think. I mean, it runs the risk of getting harder to read right there, but I really want to build out that dramatic sort of shading going on. And I'm a huge nut for, like, you know, certain things about lighting that I just think need to be there. So of course she has face paint on, which, had I have thought more about it when I decided on it for the character, I might have decided otherwise, because this face paint, especially when you want it to just be this black band across the eyes, it actually becomes very difficult to render that sometimes and have expressions and things still hold up. I mean, if you think about the whole point of having, you know, this kind of face paint on a character is for the character, you know, if you're, like, the practical purpose of it would be to obscure identity or create some kind of an effect, which by its nature is going to kill some expressiveness. So, but that then hurts your storytelling, and you have to, like, figure out, it's like, well, am I going to, you know, how do I square this? You know, how do I make this work out? So it presents some interesting little design quirks that I have to admit I didn't fully think through when I came up with it, and I still like it, so I guess, you know, just roll with it. Uh, Eric says, just happened to notice, let's see, piece most people are out, I think. Yeah, Eric says, I just happened to notice, I think, talking about the stream, so just relaxing, some nice Hammerfall playing. Hammerfall, happy metal. He calls it happy metal. That's good stuff. I'm a little bit into some power metal stuff. Some things along those lines. Especially some of the stuff that has, like, female singers. I love female singers. Like, freaking Cobra and the Lotus. I can't get enough of that band. And Cobra and the Lotus and Unleash the Archers. Unleash the Archers is just so good. So let's pull this around for a better angle. Too strong on that. Alright. Alright, whenever I'm doing shading like this, I like to keep my direction pretty consistent, because I think that helps make the shadows, makes it, I don't know, it just makes it read tighter. So there's that. Okay. Oh crap, almost forgot to, she has a strap going across here, so consistency, consistency. Gotta be consistent with it. There's that. Yeah, there we go. Now we've got her little baggie in here. Yay. She's been out running errands for Mama and ran into some trouble. Okay. And then, like, on traditional stuff, I would probably just ink right up to where I know I want that white line, but in here I can actually just switch over and give myself these white lines real easily. So a lot of times I'll go ahead and do that. That way I can just fill like that. So I find that to be quite useful. That, and then come back here, you. Oh, let's clean that up a little bit. And then sometimes I like to cut back through these. A little bit of white. Yeah, that's a little bit of white. Alright, there's that, and that, and that. We zoom out. We check it without the blue. There's where we're at. Digging it, digging it. Alright, I think I'm going to keep this video rolling as I finish this panel. And then maybe pop back in later after I finish the rest of the page. But let's see. So I want to go ahead and start building up some of these foreground elements here. And this is, you know, some of that loose penciling I was talking about, where I've kind of left it open to some interpretation. And since I'm interpreting myself, it's all good. So I want to see how these shapes kind of play against the rest of the rest of what I have here anyway. Alright, there's that. And that. Just going to build some of that out. Just a little bit of that. And then I'm going to come back in with my white. Kind of do an inverse of that other technique I was talking about earlier. All you youngsters out there, if anybody's watching this, you're like into comics, into comic art and all that, go look up Bernie Hogarth and his dynamic light and shade. It will be your guide as to what I'm attempting to use right here technique-wise. It is perfect. There is none better. And if you argue with me on it, you're wrong. So there. I don't like how that's coming out. So there's that. Now let's extend those a bit. Then let's come back in here. And that I can handle a lot better. Then I'm going to build up some more foliage. Ah! Don't do that. That would be bad. Don't. Okay, let's tilt a little more. And just creating a little bit of space there with that. A little bit more here to create more depth, because I like depth. Depth is good. Like that a lot better. There we go. Nope, not cool. There. Dang it. That's better. Alright. Now, I'm going to start having some fun out here. Rendering this ground path that she is on. And I actually think I want to turn things another way for delivering this stuff. So let's just keep some of that going. There we go. Just trying to create some lines. See how if you intersect these guys right here, it creates this implied depth. I dig that. Also, line weight is a big part of creating depth. And things running opposed to each other plays a big part in it too. Just add some little flecks here and there. I like to break things up like that. I'm going to be careful I don't overdo some of this, because that's very easy to do. And I know I'm really big at overdoing a lot of things, so. There's some little lines in there to kind of create some depth. There's that. Another one of my happy little trees back there. I don't think that really works. No, I need to take that out. That was bad. Don't do that. I was actually ruining my perspective with that. So, mistakes were made. I need to continue some of the trail, actually. that stuff moving. Now let's look at this. Sans blue line. Cool. I am good with that. Let's get a closer look. I think her head looks a little funny to me. Better. There's something stupid I did that made the proportion kind of go wonky there, so. Cool, I like that a lot better. Alright, so I'm going to save that. Fun stuff. I should be able to get this page done today, and who knows, maybe another one. Need to keep pushing on. Keep pushing on. Got some conversations to have with some buddies and find out where we're all at on this thing, and hopefully, God, the plans on Apocalypse Girl have been such a long time coming. I keep having to take time off from it to do other work, and I feel like such a turd for taking so long with it. But hopefully some things are in the works that'll help bring this to a head soon. So if you watch this video and you dig this sort of thing, and you like what you're seeing here with artwork, and actually let me go back through and show some other pages. There's probably some stuff here that I don't think anyone's even seen yet. I'm going to go quick though, because I don't want to give everything away. Yeah, what you're seeing on your screen is pages from Apocalypse Girl. I'm like 50, well, I just passed like 50 pages in on the artwork, like completed black and white artwork. There's some pages that are actually colored already. There's letters on quite a few pages early on, although I'm probably going to have someone who's a way better letterer come in and tweak on that. I love that 2-page spread, sorry. So anyway, it's you know, rather than do like, I know there's folks out there who do like Kickstarters where they'll throw together 5 pages or a concept or something, and that's cool. I mean, if they can show a little bit of a concept and get folks interested enough to buy in, and then they're funded to make it, more power to them. Me personally, I wanted to be at least 2 issues in the can before trying to find a publisher or do a Kickstarter or anything like that. I wanted to make sure that I was really quite far along in the process. Far enough along that I could really show it to people and say, look, this is not vaporware. This is something that's actually done or close to done and is just moving right along. So, like if I zoom out on here, you should be able to see, there's actually a lot done on this, and yeah, so for that alone, hopefully, I think folks, I don't know, I feel like folks are probably more apt to be supportive of something when they see that the person involved in it or the person who originated it is dedicated enough to actually put in a lot of their own time and money up front before starting to ask people to back something or ask somebody to publish it and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I wanted to make sure I had enough of that upfront investment so that I could actually feel legit in going to other folks and saying, hey, look, this is how much I've put into this. This is how much I believe in this. Will you come along for the ride? So if you dig what you see there and you kind of get the spirit of it and you like artwork or whatever, you want to read this down the road, then by all means, like and share the video, follow us on Facebook with facebook.com/apocalypsegirl. My studio / business is 6S1 Media, which is the channel here. So follow us here, follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of business. And also look up my buddy Peter Palmiotti, who was in the chat here today for a minute with Has Comics. Has Comics is a pretty cool little thing coming together with him, and I'm kind of proud to be helping him out with some stuff on that. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to take a break, so I'm going to kill the stream. And I hope you dig what you saw here, though. And we'll like and share. And as announcements become forthcoming, hopefully folks who see this will want to get involved in some things and help us out and really bring Apocalypse Girl to life in real books in our really real hands. So anyway, thanks, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye.